Awesome. Hey everyone, my name is Jerry. I lead the DeSci vertical here at Solana Foundation. Basically, our goal is to help grow awareness, engagement, and overall success for DeSci projects, particularly building on Solana. You guys might have heard of Solana, not for the best of reasons, but earlier this year, our biggest headlines were meme coin mania. So this notion that you could make 1,000x, 2,000x by trading the right coins. And this is a window into our thesis of internet capital markets. Essentially, for any venture you propose, whether it's a research project, whether it is a meme coin, whether it's a company that you are building, you can build in a infrastructure and ecosystem where you open up access to other people who want to back what it is that you're building. And the most reflexive way this manifested is meme coins. But if we take a step further, right, like what else can meme coins be, right? Blockchain is really good at coordinating large-scale, ecosystem-wide motions that traditionally are done by corporations and governments. In the previous talk, you've seen some of the really great numbers that both governments and corporations have done in funding research projects. But if you cast a wider net, what you've seen in meme coins, this notion of pooling together capital and bootstrapping funding for something that you believe will be successful, what else can that look like? And so one thing to look at is in a study published in Nature in 2023, research and scientific findings are no longer as disruptive as they used to be before. And a lot of this is natural. As you know more about the world, what you continue to find out surprises you less and less because the marginal improvements of your findings seem less relative to the great work you've done so far. But in this disruptiveness score, you've seen that across many, many disciplines, this disruption is on the decline. Oh, this is cool. There it is. But then this is a graph showing specifically drug research, right? Through the different clinical trials in each phase, you see the drop-off score of successive drugs. And so what this tells us is not only is there less innovation going on in the broader landscape, but bringing drugs to market was already insanely difficult. And so you have this notion of massive resourcing going to a paradigm, a structure that is yielding minimal outcomes. And so what needs to change? And I'm sure all of you are familiar with DeSci's value props, so I won't go into too much depth here. But some of the main pain points that we face in science and research today: funding is difficult to secure, which is the topic of this event. Research is hard to access. Patient data is not as widely available or accessible as it could be. And then decision makers don't end up being patients themselves. How do you get patient ownership into the research and what ends up happening to the drugs that they need? Here's kind of a brief snapshot of how DeSci aims to solve all these through blockchain. And so the purpose of this talk is the different funding mechanisms in DeSci, specifically on blockchain. So Bio Protocol, as I'm sure all of you know, is a DeSci launchpad for the formation of DAOs and pulling together capital through auctions for specific research endeavors focused on respective fields. The three of the ones that launched in past months on Solana include Curetopia, focused on rare diseases; Spine DAO, focused on spine care and research; and MycoDAO, focused on mycelium and mushrooms. And as you see here, right, like these are real numbers being raised through auctions, through internet capital markets on Solana. For many of these, right, like these are the initial numbers, and so in some cases the total budget or funding has increased based on market effects and market outcomes. So this is kind of what I would call V1 of what funding looks like on Solana and in DeSci overall. You launch a DAO, you raise funding, and you incorporate the token holders into the outcomes of the research you're doing. The second one is a little bit more Web3 native. These are what we call research markets. So basically, you create marketplaces for buying or selling, trading compounds that yield research-driven outcomes. And so the flagship project on Solana that does this really well is called Pump Science. And for some of you who might know about Pump.fun, which is the meme coin trading platform, Pump Science is the DeSci alternative to that. And so what they do is users can permissionlessly submit compounds, and upon testing, there's a graduation of what tests and trials are done. I believe it's first on worms, then flies, and then mice trials. And essentially, their lens is into longevity compounds, so compounds that improve outcomes for how vital and how long each specimen lives at each trial. And so here's kind of a great snapshot into the power of Web3 permissionless markets. On the right here, you'll see that it's only just been a month since this Launchpad engine has turned on, and the numbers speak for themselves. 69 compounds permissionlessly launched. So these are communities, researchers, individuals testing compounds, launching them, and these are trials being done. And then trading volume is who is buying and selling these compounds that are represented as tokens on the Solana platform. And this leads to real-life experiments being conducted as well. These are just two flavors of what funding looks like in a Web3 native paradigm. There's really great projects out there such as Kudus, which is a wearable company incentivizing data collection and rewarding users for submitting their biometric data. There's also great projects like Research Hub, who I believe is here today too, incentivizing peer review, collaboration, and open access to the data and these findings that people have built on in the past. That's all for now. Thank you.